Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin McMackin. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships with the Regional Consortium. Today, I'm going to go ahead and walk through a HubSpot demo. Before we actually jump into the demo, I just wanted to share a few details about what we'll be doing today. So first, I wanted to remind everybody that we'll be doing this demo in the free version of HubSpot. So there are some limitations that you'll see within the free version, but as we adopt and move forward in the paid version, those things will not be a challenge. I also wanted to remind everybody that I'm not an expert in HubSpot. Everything that I'm sharing with you today has been learned through trial and error, as Chris and I from the region have worked on building out the customizations in the free version of HubSpot. We've just learned some of the details and the nuances within the system. So we'll go ahead and walk through that today. So before I actually jump into the platform, I wanted to show you how we organized this presentation, just to give you a better idea of what we'll be walking through. So for that, this is a PowerPoint presentation that has also been sent out to the region. It just talks a little bit about our background and why we're here, why we're talking about HubSpot. Just to give you the quick overview, this is our employer engagement model. If you look at the model, the top half of the model represents our regional directors and our priority sectors. The director of strategic partnerships in the middle there is me. And on the bottom half, we have represented our work-based learning coordinators and job placement case managers. All of those positions have been filled at the campuses, and everybody in those positions are working currently on establishing processes to support faculty and students at the colleges. And so now what we're really trying to do is focus in a little bit more on that technology and how we're going to track information and share communication. And so that's part of why we're talking about HubSpot today. So obviously CRMs are essential and so powerful and useful to help organizations improve contact with employers, increase their tracking, improve communication, and all of those things. Really, one of the main reasons we're looking at this is because we want to avoid overwhelming our employers. We share this all the time. Our work begins and ends with employers, and for us to be successful and to maintain our relationships with those employers, we need to make sure that we're communicating with them in a way that is useful and effective, but not burdensome to them. So as I was going back and forth with how I could approach a demo for HubSpot, there's so much that the tool can do, and there's so many different options and features. I decided to go back and really emphasize or look at the criteria that were outlined in the rubric that was put together a long time ago it was developed through input from the regional directors, myself, the work group 4, the work-based learning coordinators and job placement case managers, deans, regional team, just about everybody we could think of had some input in putting together the criteria for what would be important within a CRM. And so when we look at the criteria on this rubric, it was broken down into 5 basic categories. So there's employer contact info management, differentiated access, process management, notifications or messaging, and then an other category. So what I'll go ahead and do today is we're going to go through step by step based on the rubric. And I'm just going to highlight or show you the functionality that exists currently within HubSpot to help you with this process. So what I'll go ahead and do now is I'm going to transition to our live version of HubSpot. Just give me 1 second to transition here. And of course, it always takes longer when you have people waiting on you. Here, we'll go ahead and we will do it this way. So we'll go ahead and do it this way. So before we jump into the actual um, uh, individual items from the rubric, what I wanted to do is just give you a general feel for what the platform looks like. So when you first log into HubSpot, this is the main screen, I guess you could call it. Initially what you'll see usually is what is referred to as their sales dashboard. But what we'll go ahead and do is start here. So most of the work that we do within HubSpot actually happens within this contacts category. So under contacts, when we click on that, you're going to notice that there are a few different options. So within HubSpot, a contact is actually a person or an individual, and a company is a company. And so it's very important for us to keep that in mind and remember that as we're doing work within the system. So if you wanted to run a report to get a list of all of the individuals that work for a specific company or within a specific sector, for example, you would run it through a contact report, and that's how you're going to get individuals. And then obviously companies are companies. So if you wanted a list of all of the hospitals, for example, you would go into companies and you would search for that criteria. So why don't we go ahead and start first by taking a look at the company view. So when we click on the company view, there are going to be a few features that I wanted to point out. So one thing that I would love to show you is that we have the ability to sort, filter, and really organize this based on what our needs are. So there are a number of filters here that you can apply. If you click here, you can also sort just like you do with any spreadsheet or most other databases. You also have the ability to look at all companies versus a tab for my companies. So if you wanted to just see the companies that were assigned to you as an individual, you could click and look at those companies. This is also where you would go if you wanted to create a new company. So if you look at the Actions tab up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see this orange box, and you would just be able to hit Create Company there. So it is generally, I just want to emphasize, it is a very flexible and user-friendly format, very easy to use, very forgiving format. If we were to take a look at contacts, which is people, remember, you're going to find all of the same features that I just described within a company. So you can sort it based on all contacts or my contacts. You can sort based on email, phone number, who owns the contact, and so forth. And also from here, you can create a contact. You also have the ability to import your contacts or your companies from these screens. One thing that I did want to point out that I think is a really neat feature within HubSpot is if you were creating a contact or a person within the system. Let's say you went to a networking event and you met Paul, and Paul works for Sharp Healthcare. If you go in and you enter Paul's information and create a contact for Paul, the system will automatically create a company. It will create the Sharp profile for you. You don't have to put Paul in as an individual and then add Paul as, or add Paul's company, right? So it will actually do that work intuitively for you. It will add the logo, the information, the website, all of those different things just based on Paul's email account, right? If that is already in the system, it will go ahead and associate Paul to that. So now that you have a general feel for some of the features, the sorting, how you create new contacts, and so forth, why don't we go ahead and jump into that first section that we talked about within the rubric, which was the employer contact info. So let's go ahead and start with companies. Let's go ahead and search for a company here. And why don't we search for Sharp Healthcare? We used Sharp already as an example. So let's search for Sharp Healthcare. Okay, so as you can see here, there are a number of fields and features and things that we'll walk through right now. But first of all, I just wanted to show you, so in this left-hand column here, you'll see me scrolling up and down. this is where the majority of our employer contact information is housed. This has been sorted and customized by Chris and by me to specifically show the fields and the features that we wanted to see. So if there's something here that you don't see, know that it probably exists. If it doesn't, we can customize or create it. But there are so many fields and features that we can add here. So like I said, we do have control of what you can see here. So if we were just going down the list, we have the ability to tag it for a sector. So if we wanted to look at a specific industry or sector to make sure that we can sort later on, we can absolutely do that. We also have the ability to note the connections to colleges. So if we were to click here, we would be able to list the connections or the preferred colleges who they collaborate with, colleges who they already have partnerships with, whatever it may be. So we have the ability to tag that information as well. The other thing that we have to do or have the ability to do is to really take a deep dive in the types of interaction or engagement that we are currently working on or that we want to work on within a company. So if you see here, we've divided it into two categories: opportunities that happen at an employer's place of business, and then opportunities that happen at a college. So you can see here, we can tag for job shadows, internships, and so forth. If we were looking at opportunities at the company, right? If we were looking for opportunities at the college, like participating in a career fair, being a guest speaker and so forth, we have the ability to tag that there as well. The other thing that we really want to point out, because it was so important for us here within the region, is we definitely have the ability to tag a company owner here. So when we think about a company owner, I know that, or when we think about employers, we're always so protective of our employers and our relationships, and rightfully so. We want to make sure that we treat our employer partners well, that we follow any guidelines or criteria that they expect from our relationship. And so one of the things that's important to us is making sure that we recognize and honor the contact, the company owner or contact owner. So for this, as you're well aware, we have adopted guiding principles within our region that help to guide the way that we interact with employers and the steps that we take when we're doing that. One of those things is a company owner. And so we have the ability to track and to see who the company owner is. Our admins have the ability to change a company owner if for some reason that changes within the system. But it's definitely a feature that we have the ability to work on and to run reports based off of and so forth. And as we shared, it was a key feature that we were looking for in the system. The next item on the rubric or the criteria within the rubric was a unique identifier. So within CRMs, it's very important that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we have too many duplicates or where we have duplicates at all. And so the unique identifier is essential to making sure that we don't have duplicates. So in the case of HubSpot, HubSpot uses email and website as their unique identifiers to prevent any duplication. Now, if an employer, let's say if we were going with the Paul example again from Sharp, let's say that I met Paul and Paul handed me his business card, and I go back and I put in his system and it's paul@sharp.com, right? Well, let's say Heather, who owns right now the Sharp Healthcare contact or company, let's say that she met Paul also, but Paul gave her his personal email, right? We may find a situation where we run into some duplicates because that unique identifier is the email. If that's the case, we also have the ability to merge profiles and so forth. Another thing that we wanted to make sure we could do was make sure that we have the ability to really to dive into our lead management and so forth. And so as you can see on this right-hand column here, these are all people who we have contacts with that work at Sharp. The reason that you can see them here is that each one of these individuals, their contact has been associated with this company. So that helps us with our lead management. It allows us to click from company to contact, from contact to company, and so forth. And then lastly, for for that category within our rubric is we wanted the ability to add notes. And so we absolutely have the ability to add notes here within the system. Okay, so now why don't we go ahead and move into our next category within the rubric that we created as a region. So the next section is called differentiated access. So for this section, let's go ahead and start with our landing pages or our dashboards. So for that, you'll see the little HubSpot icon. We're going to go ahead and click on HubSpot. And then we're right now taken back right to that main starting page that we were at the beginning. And this is where we have our dashboards. One of the things that we talked about was how it would be very useful for us to have dashboards for our reporting and tracking and so forth. So while we do have the functions and access within the free version of HubSpot to see these dashboards, within the free version, we don't have the ability to customize or update these dashboards. And so really for us to be able to customize them to display what we really want that would be useful for us, we have to do that within the paid version. So let's go ahead for our next thing, and we'll go ahead and go to tools, and we'll just give you a general idea. So for differentiated access, one of the things that we really wanted to make sure we had the ability to do was to work on who has access to what and so forth. So what we will do here is we'll go ahead and click and show you the teams. So just to give you an idea right now, we have the regional directors set up as users, and then Chris and myself, we're both identified as super admins. And so a super admin can do anything within the system. They can make any of the changes that are needed, but not everybody has that access. And so as you can see here, if we were looking at the team listed, like Connie, for example, Connie has the ability to go into these sections and do work within these areas, but we really have the ability to limit access and users within teams and so forth. For example, you know, one of the features that we felt it was important to work on is like exporting. So like at this stage, Chris and I are the only people who have the ability to export contacts from HubSpot. And we wanted to do that so we make sure that people, if they were to like leave a college or leave an organization, they don't take the database with them, right? One thing that we really should keep in mind though is I really do believe that this is still a very important conversation that we should have about what types of access, how we share access, how we share information and so forth. So let's go ahead now and go back to, or move on to the next section within the rubric. And the next section on the rubric has to do with process management. So let's go ahead and go back and we'll look up a company. And for today, why don't we go ahead and look up the regional, if I can type regional here, the regional EDC. So the regional EDC has become a wonderful partner of ours. So we're going to go ahead and use them as an example. So let's go ahead and start here. So the first thing on the rubric is we wanted the ability to have tasks and follow-up. So if we're working within a company or a contact, we have the ability to set all of these features. So this is an idea of a task. And so I created this just as a generic or an example. So if we look at this task, we have the ability to add our notes. We have the ability to assign this task to somebody else. So let's say I had a conversation with Kate from the EDC and she said, hey, I really need to talk to Chris about our next project. I can actually click in here and I can assign this to the person who should be following up with Kate. I can connect it to Outlook if you're able to add the plugin. And if you have downloaded the app, it will also alert you on your phone that you have something that you need to take care of. So the next thing that we have the ability to do is we do have the ability to track email within HubSpot. So for that, why don't we go ahead and look up our good friend, Mr. Christopher Yerkes. So I had the opportunity to download or activate the plugin for HubSpot within my Outlook account. And so as you can see here, when you have that plugin activated, you get to set the criteria of what you want tracked. But essentially what happens is when the plugin is turned on and you're connected to Outlook, every time you email somebody that has an existing contact within HubSpot, it's going to give you a unique identifier that essentially is BCC'd on the email. And when that's there, anytime you send an email, it's going to go ahead and attach it to that contact's profile. So this is extremely useful if you're going through, and let's say you're trying to figure out if you ever followed up with somebody and you're not finding it in your email, you can come back and there would be a historical record stored within HubSpot. Now, keep in mind, that's only going to work if you've activated the plugin, and you may have to work with your IT to do that if you don't have permission for that, but it is definitely a feature. So let's go ahead and go back to the EDC. We'll search for them. Okay, so within here, as I said, there are a number of different other features and things that we can track. So we can track meetings. So if we were to go down here, just to give you an idea, like this is an example of a meeting that was logged. Obviously, it was a while ago. It was back in 2019. But if you look at the meeting, there are notes. So we were able to add notes to this meeting. You're able to add or tag attendees in the meeting. So in this meeting, I'm able to drop down and I say, look, okay, well, I see that I have 4 contacts who are associated with the regional EDC, and you can check a box, and then those meetings will attach to those individuals' records. You also have the ability to associate contacts and so forth. So if we're continuing with the regional EDC, we'll go ahead and we'll go to this example here. So this is a logged call. So we definitely want to have the ability to track the calls. And so what you do is up on this toolbar here, you would click on calls. And I'll just go ahead and scroll down to show you a call that's already been logged. So in this example, I went ahead and logged a call. I left a message for Kate to discuss advancing San Diego. So we went ahead and I did that. I put who I contacted. The outcome was left voicemail. You can see there's a number of options here for that. The date, you can put the time of the call. You can change that if it's needed. And then one of the other cool things that you can do within calls, if you were to log a call, is you actually have the ability to check a box and set a date for you to create a follow-up for that phone call. So if you left a message and you didn't get in touch, you can just check the box and then it'll give you the reminder in 3 days or whenever you set that reminder. Some of the other things that we wanted to do within this was just overall activity tracking. And so if we were looking at the activity tracking, as you can see here, as we scroll down in this activity section, we see meetings, we see calls, we see all of the different activities that we've been able to perform. Okay, so really the last section within this core component of the rubric is going to be our ability to move somebody through a sales process. Now, this is a field that we have the ability to customize. But I left it here just so we could have a good idea of what it is. So if we decided to stick with what HubSpot's created, they have subscriber, lead, qualified lead, opportunity. I've seen a lot of companies who really just stick kind of within this area of the 3 different opportunities. So an opportunity might be like, hey, I just met this person at a networking event. We briefly chatted about, pairing them up for work-based learning opportunities with our students. So you would make a note, and then you're going to try to pursue them later to set an appointment and eventually to put in place what you discussed, right? So maybe once you have that meeting, then you transition them in to be a customer. At this stage, we have the EDC identified as an evangelist. So the regional EDC at this stage, because of the work we do with them, because of Advancing San Diego, they really are out there promoting community colleges. They are advocates of community colleges. And so we went ahead and we categorized them as an evangelist, right? It means that they are fully supportive and to promote us. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I think that covers everything within the process management section. So now why don't we go ahead and transition into notifications and messaging. So the first item within the rubric for notifications and messaging was campaign management. Now within HubSpot, there are a number of features, and obviously, as I already shared, some of those features we just don't have access to because we're using the free version at this point. So we do know that we have the ability, if we wanted to use something like Constant Contact or MailChimp, something like that, that we absolutely can connect these systems. These were identified as nice to have on the rubric. They weren't identified as must-haves. And so it's not something that is going to stop us necessarily from moving forward, but we do have the abilities, and it is something that we can look into further if we want. The API to connect those systems definitely exists. The other thing I already briefly touched on is we wanted HubSpot to be able to send us alerts, right? So if you're connected to HubSpot and your HubSpot is connected to Outlook, you get those alerts in many ways. So if you set a task, you can save it to your Outlook, or if you just have your HubSpot open, it will pop up a little notification the same way an email pops up or the notification for an email pops up when you're in your system. And so you'll definitely get an alert there. A lot of times they're the reminders for tasks and so forth. And as I indicated before, they also have a mobile app. So if you've downloaded the app and you've logged in, you'll get that alert to pop up on your phone as well. So, maybe HubSpot's not open on your computer and you're working away, sending out your emails. You may get a buzz on your phone and it'll tell you, hey, you're supposed to follow up with the regional EDC. Okay, so definitely a cool feature. And the other part with the messaging and notifications that we looked at was that Outlook integration. So I've already showed that part to you when we pulled up Chris's profile and showed those emails that were tracked. The one thing I just wanted to reemphasize is, depending on your campus, you might need IT approval to do that. I know that some of my colleagues who have been granted access to HubSpot already, they haven't been able to do that without getting access. Once you do have that approval, though, that add-in or connection, it really is a super easy process that takes a minute, and it's a pretty neat thing to do. So we're almost wrapping up here with what the rubric had identified as important to us. So we're going to move into the other category on that rubric. So on the other category, the first thing that it brings up is reports. So if we click on the reports, there's going to be a couple of different things: analytical tools, dashboards, and reports. Keep in mind, as I said before, the free version is extremely limited, as you saw with like the dashboards. If we click on reports, there's going to be a number of just canned reports that come automatically within the system, or standard reports. I think there's 10 of them, right? And so I can tell you the free version of the reports are not very helpful, right? But really the reason that they're not helpful is because we didn't create them. So they're designed for a process that we didn't create. And so I can tell you, though, from the demo that I participated in with HubSpot when we were getting going, they showed us the reporting features, and it was super customizable, very easy to do. My experience as a user so far has been that everything is very straightforward and very user-friendly. And so that's what I witnessed when they demoed the reports. And so I believe that it'll be a very easy process for us to develop and establish those reports once we unlock those paid versions. The other, or another point under the other category was the mobile app. I already pointed that out to you guys. So if I were to click on the mobile app here, I'm not sure if it's gonna pop up on your video or not, but when I click on the mobile app, it's gonna give me the list of all of the contacts within HubSpot. I can click on contacts, I can access contact information. Let's say that I was out and about and I really needed to get in touch with Kate from the EDC, but I don't have access. I can't find her email in my email. You know how that email search goes sometimes. I can actually go to HubSpot. I can click on Kate's profile. It will give me her phone number. It will give me her email. It will do all of those different things. The other really cool thing that the app provides that I find very, very useful is it has a business card scanner. So when you enable or you allow access to your camera on your phone, there is a setting in here where you can use the business card scanner. So let's say you went to a networking event, it ends super late at night. Sometimes those networking events, you're out till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and you get in your car and you've got a stack of business cards from all the people that you talk to. And the last thing you want to do is go home and sit down in front of your computer and start typing in all of those different emails and names and creating those profiles because you're tired and it's been a long day. The camera or the business card scanner gives you the ability to take a picture of that business card, and then it will pull the details that it recognizes and help to populate a profile for you. So definitely a cool feature within the system. So the last thing that I have on our rubric, we've actually gone through everything that we discussed on the rubric. The last thing that has come up a number of times in questions from people in the region has to do with API. So API is the term or the acronym for how information is shared between systems. So a lot of times we hear about difficulties with systems communicating with each other. And a lot of times we run into problems where there's like one-way API or one-way communication. So maybe you had a CRM before and it couldn't push information to your student information system, but your student information system could push information to your CRM. So that we run into some problems there. Obviously, API is something that you'll want to work through with your IT department and so forth. But from my experience and from what I saw on the demo with HubSpot, it is such an easy process for us to be able to do. So when you click on the settings tab within HubSpot, I'll go ahead and do it again. If you come down here, there are a number of different things. If you wanted to integrate your email, this is where you would come for email integrations, but this is how you access the API key, right? So this is the information that you would need to be able to connect. HubSpot does have a website specifically dedicated to API where they list all of the different programs that they connect to. So with that, I know that I have gone through this fairly quickly. I know that people may have questions still, but we wanted to provide just a high-level overview of the functionality that we requested as a region and how we've been able to match up or exhibit and use that functionality within the free version of HubSpot. Once we have everybody on the same page and we have agreement with users and all of the different things that we need to move forward, we're excited that this will be a wonderful tool for us to be able to use, and it will provide us with the functionality that we've been looking for. So thank you, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Chris if you have any questions about HubSpot. Thank you.